The small science ship Curiosity drifted through the empty blackness of the Auriga sector. Inside the ship's bridge, Dr. Eliza Morrison stared at the stars through the main viewport. Her dark hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and her eyes looked tired after 15 hours on duty. "Another empty sector," she said with a sigh. "Nothing but dust and radiation." Krell, the blue-skinned Artaxian science officer, looked up from his console. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "That is why the Council sent us here, Doctor. No one comes to this dead region, perfect for cataloging stellar decay patterns without interference." Morrison was about to reply when a sharp beeping cut through the quiet bridge. The communications officer Jenkins sat up straight in his chair. "Captain, I'm picking up a signal," Jenkins said, his fingers dancing across his screen. "It's faint but definitely artificial." Captain Doro moved to stand behind him. "Source?" "That's the strange part," Jenkins said. "It's using an old format. Very old. It's an SOS." Morrison joined them at the console. "An SOS? No one uses that anymore. It's ancient Earth protocol." The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew humans were rare now. After the great disaster 2 centuries ago, they had scattered across the galaxy, becoming a dying species. "It must be a mistake," Krell said. "Council records show no human ships have entered this sector in over 200 years. Captain Doro's face hardened. "Play it." Jenkins tapped his console. A burst of static filled the bridge, followed by a distorted voice. "This is UNSC Prometheus. Contingency protocol active. Any surviving human vessels respond. We are..." The message cut to, "Static, UNSC?" Morrison whispered. "That's United Nations Space Command, Earth military. But they were disbanded after the fall." Captain Doro turned to the navigation officer. "Can we locate the source?" "Yes, Captain. Signal originates from a small orbit around that dying star. Approximately 6 hours at standard speed." Krell stepped forward, his skin turning a darker blue, a sign of anxiety in his species. "Captain, I advise caution. This could be a trap. Pirates sometimes use old distress signals to lure ships." Doro looked at Morrison. "Doctor, your thoughts?" Morrison stared at the faint red star on the view screen. "If there's even a small chance this is a human distress call, we have to investigate. It could be important data for my research on human extinction patterns." "Very well," Doro said. "Set course for the signal source. All stations on yellow alert." 6 hours later, the Curiosity slowed as it approached a massive shape silhouetted against the dying star. It was a station, ancient and battle-scarred, slowly tumbling in its orbit. "Life signs?" Doro asked. "None detected," Krell replied. "But the station has minimal power. Some systems appear operational." Morrison pressed her hand against the viewport. "Look at the hull." The ship's lights illuminated faded lettering on the station's side. "UNSC Prometheus, contingency protocol active." "It's real," she whispered. As they prepared the boarding shuttle, none of them noticed a small light activate deep inside the station. A dormant system pinged to life, registering their scan. Somewhere across vast distances of space, something ancient received the signal. Something terrible began to wake up. Far away, on a hidden asteroid base unmarked on any Galactic Council map, something stirred. Inside a massive chamber carved into the rock, frost melted from a metal pod. Steam hissed as the cryogenic chamber slowly opened. A hand gripped the edge of the pod, a hand too large to be normal, with skin crisscrossed by faint metallic lines. Then a figure sat up. Commander Alexander Voss took his first breath in 200 years. His chest expanded painfully as his enhanced lungs remembered how to work. His eyes opened, revealing irises that shifted color from silver to gold to copper, scanning everything with machine precision. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, his body a perfect blend of muscle and machine. As he stood, the medical systems around him began reporting his status. "Cryogenic revival complete," said a calm computer voice. "Biosynthetic systems at 64% efficiency. Full restoration in progress." Voss's voice was deep and rough from centuries of disuse. Why was I awakened? A screen lit up on the wall. Emergency Protocol Delta triggered. UNSC Prometheus distress beacon has been activated. Voss closed his eyes as memories flooded back. Earth burning, billions dead. The desperate creation of the War God program. 12 men and women transformed into living weapons. The final battle that cost humanity its homeworld, but contained the enemy. His orders had been clear. Sleep until needed. Protect what remained of humanity at any cost. Show me, he commanded. The screen displayed the Curiosity approaching the Prometheus station. Voss studied the ship. Non-human vessel, he asked. Affirmative. Galactic Council research vessel, crew of 27, multiple species. One human researcher identified, Dr. Eliza Morrison, xenoanthropologist. Voss flexed his hand, watching as nanites repaired dying cells beneath his skin. Status of the containment? Containment failing. Estimated breach in 14 standard days. Voss closed his eyes. And the other war gods? Unknown. No contact since your cryogenic initialization. He might be the last one, the final war god. He walked to a wall panel that slid open at his approach, revealing a black uniform and armor designed for his massive frame. Prepare my ship, he said, dressing quickly. Full weapons complement. Warning, the computer replied. Galactic Council has classified war god technology as prohibited weapons of mass destruction. Detection risk is high. Voss laughed without humor. They have no idea what real weapons of mass destruction look like. His eyes darkened to a deep red. But they will soon remember. Meanwhile, on the Prometheus station, Morrison led the boarding team through dark corridors. Their lights revealed signs of battle, blast marks on walls, ancient bloodstains. But something was strange about the damage patterns. The fighting happened here, but these marks... Morrison touched a wall where something had carved clean through the metal. No weapon I know makes cuts like this. Jenkins scanned the area. Doctor, I'm picking up active systems deeper in the station. Something's still running after all this time. Captain Doro's voice came through their comms. Be careful, we're detecting unusual energy readings from your location. As they moved deeper, they found a sealed door marked Command Center, authorized personnel only. Can we open it? Morrison asked. Jenkins worked on the panel. It's asking for... Wait. It just unlocked itself. The massive door slid open with a groan, revealing a large circular room. In the center stood a holographic display showing a star map. And on the map, a single point of light was moving, heading straight toward them. What is that? Jenkins whispered. Morrison stared at the light. I think someone is coming. Morrison and her team explored the command center of the Prometheus station. Old screens flickered with weak power, showing data in an ancient human language. Look at these battle reports, Morrison said, studying the screens. The refugees who came here fought something, but these patterns are strange. Jenkins nodded. According to these logs, they held off attackers for weeks with just basic weapons. That shouldn't be possible. Krell, who had joined the boarding party despite his earlier fears, scanned the room with his device. Doctor, I am detecting a hidden door. He pointed to a wall section that looked no different from the others. Morrison pressed her hand against it. How do we open it? As if answering her question, the wall panel slid aside, revealing a small room. Inside was a single metal box with heavy locks. A vault, Jenkins whispered. The box had a handprint scanner. Morrison hesitated, then placed her palm on it. To everyone's surprise, it glowed green. Human DNA recognized, announced a computerized voice. Access granted to emergency archives. The box opened, revealing a data crystal and a small, holographic projector. Morrison carefully removed the projector and activated it. A flickering image appeared, an older man in a military uniform, his face tired and scarred. This is Admiral Chen, final commander of humanity's defense forces, the recording began. If you're watching this, then someone has found the Prometheus. I pray it's human survivors, but after what happened to Earth, I fear we won't last long. As a species. The team gathered around the hologram as it continued. We didn't just lose against the swarm as everyone believes. We discovered too late that the swarm was just a tool, puppets controlled by something far worse. We called them the Void Heralds, beings that exist partially outside normal space. They don't just kill, they consume consciousness itself. Morrison's blood ran cold as the Admiral described creatures that could barely be seen or detected, that left victims empty shells with no mind remaining. Only the war gods could fight them effectively. In our final stand, we sacrificed Earth to create a prison dimension for the Heralds. The war gods were supposed to guard that prison forever. But now, the message broke into static for a moment. Containment is failing. If you're human, find the war gods. They're our last hope. As the message ended, the lights in the station suddenly dimmed. Emergency alarms began to sound. "What's happening?" Jenkins asked, looking around nervously. "Captain," Doro's panicked voice came through their comms. "Get back to the ship now. We're detecting multiple unknown entities approaching your position." Morrison grabbed the data crystal. "We need to go." As they ran toward the exit, Krell suddenly stopped, staring at empty air. "Do you see that?" He whispered. "See what?" Morrison asked. Then she felt it. A cold presence, like being watched by something hungry. The air rippled in front of them, almost invisible, but not quite. Krell reached out curiously and then screamed. His body went rigid as something unseen lifted him off the ground. His eyes rolled back, suddenly empty and lifeless. Jenkins fired, his weapon at the air where Krell was suspended, but the shots passed through harmlessly. More ripples appeared around them, surrounding the team. Then the station shook violently as something struck it from outside. Through a viewport, Morrison saw a small black ship approaching at impossible speed. The ship fired again, but this time at the invisible ripples. Where its weapons hit, the air seemed to tear open, revealing glimpses of writhing, impossible shapes that hurt the eye to look at. A massive figure in black armor burst through the station's outer door, moving faster than anything so large should. Move. In each hand was a weapon unlike anything Morrison had ever seen. "Get down!" the figure roared in a deep, commanding voice. Morrison and Jenkins dropped to the floor as Commander Alexander Voss, the last war god, opened fire on enemies. Only he could properly see. The weapons in Voss's hands flashed with strange blue light. Where they hit, the almost invisible enemies became solid for a moment before shattering like glass. He moved with impossible speed, turning to fire in all directions at things Morrison could barely see. "Stay down and don't look directly at them," Voss commanded, his voice deep and powerful. Morrison and Jenkins pressed themselves against the floor. Krell's body lay nearby, his eyes empty and staring at nothing. In less than a minute, it was over. Voss stood in the center of the corridor, his weapons still glowing faintly. He was enormous, nearly 8 feet tall, with broad shoulders and a body that seemed both human and machine at once. "They're gone for now," he said, turning to Morrison. His eyes shifted from red to a calmer gold color. "But more will come. We need to leave." Morrison stood slowly, staring up at the giant. "Who? What are you?" "Commander Alexander Voss, 3rd Battalion War God Division." He looked at her with strange, metallic eyes. "You're human. Dr. Morrison, correct? How do you know my name?" "I know everything about your ship and crew." Voss turned to Jenkins, who was still on the floor. "On your feet, soldier. Your friend is gone. Nothing can be done for him now." Jenkins stood shakily. "What were those things?" "Void Heralds, scout units." Voss holstered one weapon and checked the other. "They've sensed the containment weakening. They're coming back." Captain Doro's voice came through their comms again. "Morrison, Jenkins, status report. There's a vessel docked at your location that didn't respond to hails." Morrison touched her comm. "Captain, we're alive. We've made contact with someone. Krell is dead." "Dead? How? And who's with you?" Before Morrison could answer, Voss took her comm unit. "This is Commander Voss. Your ship is in danger. Prepare for immediate departure. They hurried back to the docking bay where Voss's small black ship had attached itself next to their shuttle. My ship will follow, Voss said. Get to the Curiosity now. Back on the Curiosity, the crew stared in shock as Voss ducked through the airlock. He was too tall for the ship's corridors and had to bend to avoid hitting his head. By the Council, Captain Doro whispered. What are you? Voss scanned the bridge crew with his shifting eyes. I'm humanity's last weapon, created to fight what? You cannot see or understand. The Artaxian navigator backed away, his skin turning deep blue with fear. Captain, I recognize this being. The historical texts speak of them. He's a war god, a forbidden weapon. Not a weapon, Morrison said, stepping between them. A soldier. Voss looked at her with something like surprise. It doesn't matter what I am, he said. What matters is what's coming. The Void Heralds were contained 2 centuries ago at the cost of Earth itself. Now that containment is failing. Captain Doro squared her shoulders. We should report this to the Galactic Council immediately. No, Voss said firmly. The Council would only try to destroy me, and without the war gods, you have no defense against the Heralds. As if to prove his point, the ship's alarms suddenly blared. Captain, the navigator shouted. A Galactic Council patrol vessel is approaching. They're demanding we surrender the prohibited weaponized entity aboard our ship immediately. Voss's eyes shifted to a deep, dangerous red. And now you'll see why even your precious council fears what humanity created. The council patrol ship was twice the size of the Curiosity, its weapons already aimed at them. Science vessel Curiosity. A stern voice came through the comms. Our scanners detect a Class X prohibited weapon system aboard your ship. Power down and prepare to be boarded. Captain Doro looked at Voss. What do? We can't fight a council patrol. Voss moved to the communications panel. Let me speak to them. Is that wise? Morrison asked. Probably not, Voss replied with a grim smile. Then he activated the channel. Council Patrol, this is Commander Voss of the Earth Defense Force. The crew of this vessel is under my protection. There was a long pause before the reply came. War God Alexander Voss, you are in violation of Galactic Treaty Section 12, which forbids weapons of mass destruction. Surrender yourself immediately. I'm afraid I can't do that, Voss said calmly. The Void Heralds have returned. This ship encountered them at the Prometheus station. They've already killed 1 crew member. Another pause, longer this time. Stand by, Curiosity. Voss turned to Morrison. They're checking their databases, trying to decide if I'm telling the truth. And are you? She asked quietly. About the Heralds? Yes. His metallic eyes studied her face. You have questions. Ask them. Morrison took a deep breath. The message we found, it said Earth was destroyed to trap these Heralds. Is that true? Voss nodded slowly. Earth was our last hope. When the Heralds came, conventional weapons were useless. They exist partially outside normal space-time. Only the war gods could fight them. How? Jenkins asked. What are you exactly? We were volunteers. 12 men and women given the most advanced technology humanity had, integrated into our bodies, our minds, even our DNA. Voss looked down at his hands, where faint metallic lines traced his skin. We're living weapons, designed to perceive and fight across multiple dimensions. Captain Doro stepped forward. And Earth? In the final battle, we converted Earth's entire core into a dimensional engine. It created a prison reality for the Heralds, but the planet couldn't survive the process. Voss's voice grew quiet. Billions died to save trillions. We war gods were left as guardians to ensure the prison held. Before anyone could respond, the council ship hailed them again. Curiosity, we are sending an envoy shuttle to your position. Prepare for docking. An envoy? Morrison looked confused. Not soldiers? Voss's eyes narrowed. They know something. The council envoy was a tall, gray-skinned alien in an ornate uniform. His name was Ambassador Thex. Captain Doro led him to the ship's conference room where Voss waited with Morrison. When Thex saw Voss, he bowed deeply, a gesture of respect, not fear. The legends were true, Thex said softly. A war god still lives. Voss stood still, surprised by the reaction. You know of us? Some of us do. Thex placed a datapad on the table. It showed images from across the galaxy, people standing empty-eyed like Krell had been. The Void Heralds have been returning for months. Small incursions at first, but growing. We didn't understand what we were seeing until now. Thex looked up at Voss with solemn eyes. Commander, the Council needs your help. The containment is failing faster than you know. The Heralds are coming back. The Curiosity and the Council patrol ship traveled together to Nexus Station, the closest major Council outpost. As they approached, Morrison stood beside Voss at the viewport, watching the massive space station grow larger. They're afraid of you, she said quietly. Voss nodded. They should be. But they need you more than they fear you now. Ambassador Thex had spent hours showing them reports from across Council space. Mysterious deaths, people found with empty eyes and blank minds, strange energy readings that appeared and disappeared. The Void Heralds were testing the walls of their prison. When they docked at Nexus Station, a group of Council security officers waited nervously. Voss towered over them as he stepped from the airlock. Whispers spread through the crowd as people from a dozen different species stared at the war god. Deicida, an old alien whispered, bowing slightly as Voss passed. God Killer. Voss stopped. You know that name? The old alien nodded. My species remembers. We were there when Earth fell, when the war god saved us all. Ambassador Thex led them to the station's command center. Council representatives from several worlds were waiting. Some looked afraid, others curious, but all fell silent when Voss entered. The Council has agreed to work with you, Commander, Thex said, but they have conditions. I don't have time for politics, Voss replied. The Heralds won't wait. A tall, bird-like alien stepped forward. We must insist that you operate under Council supervision. Your weapons and abilities are too dangerous. Voss's eyes shifted to red. You don't understand what we're facing. The Heralds aren't just aliens, they're reality eaters. They consume minds and use the knowledge to break down the walls between dimensions. Morrison stepped forward. Ambassador Thex, show them what happened to Krell. Thex nodded and displayed the footage from the Prometheus station. The Council members watched in horror as Krell was lifted by something barely visible, his mind erased in seconds. This is just one Herald scout, Voss said. Imagine thousands. The Council members looked at each other, then reluctantly agreed to Voss's terms. He would help them prepare defenses and modify their weapons to be effective against the Heralds. Late that night, while the station slept, Voss sat alone at a computer terminal. His fingers moved quickly as he searched through Council archives, looking for information about the other war gods. According to official records, all had been destroyed after the Herald containment was established. You don't believe that? Morrison said, entering the room quietly. Voss didn't look up. 11 of the finest warriors humanity ever created, all killed? No. They're out there hiding, waiting. For what? For the call. Voss pulled up a star map. I've been tracking energy signatures similar to my own systems. There are faint traces in these 3 sectors. Morrison studied the map. That's where the Herald sightings have been most frequent. Voss smiled slightly. My brothers and sisters sense the danger too. Before Morrison could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. A voice came over the speakers. Alert! Unknown entities detected in Sector 4. Security teams report casualties. All personnel evacuate immediately. Voss stood, his weapons already in hand. They found us faster than I expected. Morrison looked at him with worried eyes. Can you stop them alone? We're about to find out. As they raced toward Sector 4, the lights around them flickered. The air rippled with distortions as void heralds began to materialize on the station. Voss charged forward, his weapons blazing with blue light. Then, from another corridor, came flashes of green light. Heralds shattered like glass as another figure fought through them, a woman almost as tall as Voss with the same metallic eyes and strange weapons. "Sasha," Voss whispered in disbelief. Commander Sasha Reznov, another war god, smiled grimly at him across the battlefield. "Hello, brother. Sorry I'm late to the party." Voss and Sasha fought side by side, their weapons cutting through the void heralds that swarmed the station. Where Voss was all power and direct force, Sasha moved like water, flowing between enemies with deadly grace. "How did you find me?" Voss asked as they pushed the heralds back. "I felt you wake up," Sasha replied, her weapons flashing green. "I've been hiding on Teller Fur for nearly a century, living among the colonists." When the battle ended, they returned to the command center, where Morrison and the council representatives waited anxiously. "Another war god," Ambassador Thex whispered, staring at Sasha with wide eyes. Sasha nodded. "Commander Sasha Reznov, 7th Battalion, and I'm not the only one out there." Over the next few days, reports came in from across council space. Herald. Attacks growing more frequent and better coordinated. Voss and Sasha worked with council forces, teaching them to modify their weapons to affect the heralds. During a strategic meeting, Morrison noticed something strange in the attack pattern. "Data. Look at this," she said, pointing to the star map. "The heralds aren't attacking random targets, they're focusing on these specific sectors." Voss studied the map, his eyes narrowing. "Those are all former human colony zones." "They're searching for something," Sasha agreed. Voss suddenly went still. "The cradle." "The what?" Morrison asked. "The cradle," Voss repeated. "It contains the genetic template for creating war gods. If the heralds destroy it, there's no chance of making more of us." Sasha looked grim. "I thought it was destroyed with Earth." "No," Voss said. "It was hidden. Only the war gods know its location." As they discussed this new threat, an alarm sounded. A message was coming in from a distant outpost. The holographic display showed a council base under attack. Void heralds swarmed everywhere, but something else moved among them. A figure fighting back with familiar blue-white weapons. "That's Marcus Chen," Sasha said, leaning forward. 5th Battalion. Another war god had revealed himself. Hours later, another message arrived from a different sector. A colony world reported strange energy signatures matching war god technology. Then another report came in. Void heralds retreating from a mining outpost where they had encountered unexpected resistance. "They're all waking up," Voss said with something like hope in his voice, responding to the threat. Within 2 days, 3 more war gods had made contact. Each had been hiding among the stars, waiting for the moment they would be needed again. Morrison watched as Voss coordinated with his newly found comrades. "Where is the cradle?" she asked quietly. "Earth's moon," Voss replied, "disguised as an unremarkable asteroid in the solar system. We need to go there immediately." The council prepared their strongest ships, loading them with modified weapons. Voss, Sasha, and the other war gods would lead the defense. As they prepared to depart, Morrison found Voss standing alone at a viewport, looking out at the stars. "You never expected to find the others, did you?" she asked. "I hoped," Voss said softly. "But no, I didn't expect it. I thought I was the last." "What happens when we reach the cradle?" Voss's metallic eyes reflected the distant stars. "Then humanity gets one last chance to save the universe." The fleet arrived at the solar system to find chaos waiting. Hundreds of void heralds surrounded a small, unremarkable asteroid, Earth's former moon, now disguised and hidden for centuries. "They found the cradle," Voss said grimly. "We're almost too late." The council ships formed a defensive line while the 6 war gods prepared for battle. Each checked their weapons as Morrison watched from the command deck. "What exactly is in the cradle?" she asked Voss. "Not just the templates to make. More of us," he replied. "Something more." The essence of what made humanity special, our ability to adapt, to overcome impossible odds. Alarms blared as the heralds attacked. The war gods launched in specialized fighters, cutting through the enemy lines with impossible skill. Council, ships fired their modified weapons, making the heralds visible for brief moments before destroying them. But there were too many. For every herald destroyed, 3 more appeared. "We need to reach the cradle," Voss shouted over the comms. "Cover us." The war gods' ships formed a tight formation, pushing toward the asteroid. Heralds swarmed them, tearing at their hulls. 2 Council cruisers moved to shield them, sacrificing themselves to clear a path. Finally, Voss's ship landed on the asteroid's surface. The other war gods followed, forming a defensive circle as Voss placed his hand on what looked like ordinary rocket. The surface shimmered and faded, revealing a doorway. The war gods fought their way inside, with Morrison following close behind. Inside was a single chamber with a glowing blue device at its center. The walls were covered with the faces of billions of humans, recordings of all who had lived on Earth before its destruction. "The cradle," Voss whispered with reverence. Morrison stared in awe. "It's beautiful." Voss approached the central device. "This contains the combined knowledge and essence of humanity. Not just how to make war gods, but what to make next." "Next?" Morrison asked. "We were just the first step," Sasha explained. "Humanity knew the heralds would return someday. They prepared for it." Outside, the battle raged. The council ships were failing. Heralds broke through, pouring toward the cradle. "What do we do?" Morrison asked desperately. "What we were made for," Voss said. He placed his hand on the cradle. The other war gods joined him, forming a circle. "What's happening?" Morrison backed away as energy began to flow between the war gods and the cradle. "Evolution," Voss said, his eyes glowing brighter than ever. "Humanity's final gift." The cradle pulsed with blinding light. The war gods' bodies began to change, becoming translucent, filled with swirling energy. "Go," Voss told Morrison. "Tell them what happened here." Morrison ran for the entrance as the chamber filled with light. Outside, she watched in awe as the light engulfed the entire asteroid. Then it exploded outward, not in destruction, but as a wave of pure energy. Where it touched the heralds, they dissolved. The wave spread faster and faster, racing outward to the stars. Inside that wave were the war gods, transformed into something new, beings of pure energy and consciousness, able to hunt the heralds across all dimensions. 1 year later, Morrison stood before the Galactic Council, finishing her report. "Though humans as a species are now extinct, their legacy lives on," she said. "The war gods still watch over us, guarding reality itself. On distant worlds, people sometimes see strange lights in the sky, blue, green, and gold. Some say they are the war gods, humanity's final children, still fighting to protect all life. And in the heart of the council chamber, a memorial stands, with words that echo across the galaxy. They created gods to kill their demons, then became the gods themselves. The end."